Hi guys. Okay, so today we're going to go over AQA GCSE Mathematics Higher Tier Paper 2 from June 2020. Okay, let's begin. Question 1. Which of these is a correct identity? Circle your answer. Okay, so straight away you can just circle x plus 4x is identical to 5x because all the other ones are wrong. Okay, and if you're not sure why, 6x is identical to 18. Well, what does that mean? We don't even, that means nothing. 2x plus 1 is identical to 7. Well, again, that's not true. 7x plus 9 is identical to x. Again, that's not true. Okay, question 2. Circle the reason why these triangles are congruent. Okay, so congruency means why they're similar. Okay, so the left and right triangle have both been labeled by two sides of lengths 9 and 5 and an angle of 20. So we've been given a side, an angle, and a side. Okay, so we're going to circle SES. Okay, question 3. Circle the number that is written in standard form. Okay, so if you're not sure what a standard form number looks like, it's a times 10 to the b, okay, with a and b having constraints on them. So a and b have constraints. So a, okay, it has to be a real number. Okay, it has to be a real number, which is usually greater than 0. Okay, because if you just have 0 times 10 to the something, you just get 0. So a is a real number, and b, okay, b belongs to the set of whole numbers. Okay, so non-decimal numbers, basically. Okay, so b cannot be a decimal. So the power cannot be a decimal number. Okay, so a has to be real and b has to be a whole number. Okay, so it will be 5.2 times 10 to the minus 4. Okay, question 4. Circle the expression that has the largest value when a is less than minus 1. Okay, so the largest value. Okay, so if you're not sure what the answer is straight away, you can always plug in values, okay? So I'm just going to circle what the right answer is for now, and then show you what I mean. So let a be minus 2, then a half a becomes minus 1, a remains minus 2, a squared becomes 4, and a cubed is minus 8. Okay, so clearly our answer a squared is correct. Now don't get overconfident or just get confused and circle a cubed because you think, oh, any number cubed is going to be bigger than any number squared. That's only true if a is greater than 1. A cubed is greater than a squared, IFF, if and only if, okay, a is greater than 1, okay, not even equal to 1. Because if a is equal to 1, 1 cubed is just 1, and 1 squared is just 1. Okay, so it has to be greater than 1. Okay, question 5. The time students spend watching TV was recorded. The table shows the average daily time per student each year from the years 2012 to 2019. A time series graph is drawn to represent the data. The first 4 points have been plotted. Question 5a asks us to complete the graph. Okay, so to do it the most accurately we can, we want to figure out what each square represents, how many minutes it represents. So from 0 to 60, there's 5 squares. And we know that represents 60. Okay, well, from 60 to 70, we have a gap of 10. So from 0 to 60, it doesn't matter. Those increments aren't relevant, okay? So don't worry about that. But from 60 to 70, an increment of 5 squares goes up in 10 minutes. So each square represents 2 minutes. Okay, so this helps us to do the most accurate graph. Okay, so 2016, we're at 130. Okay, so it'll be here, just above the first square. At 2017, that's 100. Okay, so 100 minutes is over here. 2018 is 90. So move down by a square, and at 2019, 82. So it's this first square above 80. So we're going to complete a graph. So draw a line, and then just go through all the points. Okay, let me do that again. Just try to do it properly. Okay, there we go. 5b, use the graph to estimate the average daily time per student in 2020. Okay, now we don't have data about 2020. Okay, so we're just gonna extend this line. Okay, we're going to extend this line to what we think 2020 would be at. So this is 2020, and this is called extending data, or even we can call it extrapolating. So what we've done is we've not been given the data from 2020, but we're extending our line to assume that the trend continues this way. So we can estimate what it will be at 2020. So if you estimate it's about 76, 77. So I'm just going to say it's around 77 minutes. Okay, question 6. Work out the highest common factor of 75 and 105. Okay, so 75, if you write this in terms of its factors, it is 3 times 3 times 5. And 105 is 3 times 5 times 7. Okay, so what's common between these sets of factors? Okay, we have a 3 and 5, which is common, okay? So our HCF is 3 times 5, which is 15. Okay, so it's 15. Okay, question 7. Here's the graph of y equals x squared minus 7x plus 10. For values of x from 0 to 7, okay, 7a, write down the roots of x squared minus 7x plus 10 equals 0. Okay, this is pretty simple. We just have to read off where this graph hits the x-axis. Okay, so one point will be here, and another point will be over here. So at 2 and 5, those are our two roots. 7b, write down the coordinates, or rather the x-coordinate of the turning point of the curve, which is this point over here, which is between 3 and 4, so it's 3.5. Or if you're not sure how you can do it, you can just always complete the square. So x minus 7 over 2 squared. Okay, and then plus c. This is the general thing. I haven't completed it fully, but you always know that it will be half of this number over here. What's inside the brackets? Okay, so then you know it's 7 over 2, which is 3.5. Okay, question 8. At a party, there are 90 people. 48 of them are women and 42 of them are men. Some women leave and some men arrive. The ratio of women to men is now 10:11. Are there now more than 90 people at the party? Tick one box. Okay, so the ratio is 10:11. So if we keep extending these down by multiplying, so we can have 20:22. Okay, no, we can have 30:33. Okay, then we can have 40:44. And 50:55. Okay, so 10:11 is the initial ratio. So if there are 48 women, okay, this means a lot of women have left. Okay, so the only possible one it could be is 40:44. So 44 plus 40, so 40 plus 44 is 84 people, which means that it's less than 90. So no. And we can't stop here, or rather we shouldn't stop here. 50 to 55 is also examinable. But if there are 50 women, it can't be this one because 50 is greater than 48. So this is not possible. Okay, because this means that women arrived instead of leaving. Okay, question 9. Here is a cuboid. Okay, we've been given a cuboid. Assume that the total surface area of the cuboid is 200 centimeters squared. Work out the volume of the cuboid. Okay, so the surface area is 200. Now, if you're not familiar with the formula for the surface area, it's 2 times the length times the width plus 2 times the length plus the height plus 2 times the width times the height. Okay, so if you plug in our values into this formula and set it equal to 200, we can find what the unknown is. We can find out what y is. Okay, so y is it's our length. This is our L. this is our H, and this is our W. So 2 times, I'm just going to factorize and do it. So first, let's do length times width. So 5y, okay? 2 times 5y plus 2 times LH. Sorry, rather just LH, because I factored out the 2. I factored out the 2, so it's just going to be LW, LH, and WH. Okay, so LH, again, is 5y, and WH is 25. Okay, and we're going to set this equal to 200. Okay, now we're going to solve for y. So I'm just going to first simplify what's inside the brackets and then divide both sides by 2. So 10y plus 25 is equal to 100. So 10y is equal to 75. So our length is 7.5. Now the volume is just length times width times height. So it's just 7.5 times 5 times 5. And again, now you can use a calculator to do this. And this is 25 times 7.5. Okay, so it's 187.5 centimeter cubed, which is reasonable. Okay, this is reasonable. 9b. In fact, the total surface area of the cuboid is smaller than 200 centimeter cubed. Sorry, 200 centimeters squared. What does this mean about the volume of the cuboid? Okay, so the answer is very obvious. Okay, it's going to be smaller. But the reasoning, the logical reasoning behind this is if the surface area is less than 200, okay, this is our logic. If SA is less than 200, okay, we will get Y would be less than 7.5. So our volume would be less than, our volume would therefore be less than 187.5. So it will be smaller. Okay. Question 10. Alex and Bev sat 6 tests, each with 50 marks. The table shows the mean percentages after 5 tests. Alex's mean is 60% and Bev has a mean of 52%. After all 6 tests, the mean percentage were equal. In the 6th test, Alex scored 24 out of 50. Work out Bev's score out of 50 in the 6th test. Okay, so if we do 60% of 50, we get 30. And if you do 52% of 50, we get 26. So these are the average scores. Okay, these are the average scores for the first 5 tests. So this is the each average of 5. So on average, Alex is getting 30 and Bev is getting 26. Okay, so now they set 5 tests. Okay, so they set 5 tests. So Alex's total marks so far is 150. And Bev's so far is 26 times 5, which is 130. So this is the total mark from 5 tests, total of 5 tests. Okay, now we know that Bev has an unknown score in the 6th test because we're trying to find that out. But we do know in the 6th test, Alex scored 24 out of 50. Okay, so if Alex scores 24, we know he scored now got 150 plus 24, which is 174 marks. Okay, so all we need to do now is do 174 minus 130, which is 44. So Bev must have scored 44 marks in the 6th test. There's also a long way to do it if you just want to do extra steps. Okay, so what you can do is you can do 174 divided by 300 times 100 is 58%. Okay, so this is what Alex got as an average after 6 tests. So what you can do after this is just do 130k plus x over 3 is 58, because 58%, I've just simplified it. By doing 100 over 300, I've just written it as over 3. So our x, again, is just 174 minus 130, which is 44. This is just an extra step. Okay, this is an extra step. You don't have to do this. I wouldn't recommend doing it unless you couldn't see how to do it faster. This is just an extra step. Okay. I would recommend only doing this if you're not sure if you've done it correctly in this step itself, but only do it if you have time. Okay. Usually I would say it's best to do everything step by step, but this is an unnecessary thing to do unless you didn't realize you could just do it in this line, Okay. Question 11. A solid piece of silver has a mass of 2.625 kilograms and a volume of 250 centimeter cubed. Okay, work out the density of a piece of silver. Give your answer in grams per cubic centimeter. Okay, so this is just 2625 grams. And the density is mass over volume. Density is mass over volume. So it's just equal to 2625 over 250. Okay, now you're going to be able to use your calculator. So you can just do this on the calculator and your answer will be 10.5. Okay. Question 12. Work out the gradient of the straight line through -2, 3, and 1, 9. Okay, this is pretty simple. So it's change in x over change in y. Sorry, change in y over change in x. My mistake. Change in y over change in x. So 9 minus 3 is the change in y. And our change in x is 1 minus -2. Okay, so this is 6 over 3, which is 2. So our gradient is 2. Okay, question 13. The diagram shows a wall. Okay, we have a wall over here. The area of the wall is 39.2 meters squared. Work out the length of the wall. Okay, so now we know this is a trapezium. Okay, so the trapezium has this as the area, half. Okay, so we're going to do half plus base times height. Sorry, base plus height times the length is 39.2. So if you do this, we have 2.1 plus 2.8 over 2 multiplied by L is 39.2. Okay, so now if you just simplify this, we have 2.1 plus 2.8 and divide by 2. So we have 2.45 L is 39.2. So now divide both sides by 2.45. Okay, and then we get the answer for the length, which is 16. So it's pretty simple. We just use the formula for the area of a trapezium and substitute in our values. Okay, question 14. A marathon takes place each year. In 2020, there were 6,500 runners. For each of the next 3 years, the number of runners will increase by 5%. Does this predict that in 2023, there will be more than 7,500 runners? You must show you're working. Okay, so if each year it increases by 5, you're basically doing 1.05 times the current value, current number of runners per year. So basically, you're doing 6,500 times 1.05 cubed, because it's 3 years. Okay, so if you do this now, okay, and then you work out the value, you'll get 7,524, which is greater than 7,500. So the answer is yes. Okay, it does predict. Yes, there will be more than 7,500. Okay. It's pretty simple. Again, if you want to start step by step, you can do it. How many runners there are in 2021, then 2022, and then 2023. But it's just easier to do it in one step. Okay, question 15. Rearrange A equals B over C plus 5 to make C the subject. Okay, so first what I'm going to do is I'm going to say B over C is A minus 5. Now this is pretty simple to do. I'm just going to do it in one step. So I'm just going to take the reciprocal. Okay, so reciprocal is C over B is 1 over A minus 5. So now I could just multiply both sides by B. So C equals B over A minus 5. And that is our answer. Question 16. On a restaurant menu, there are 22 main dishes, of which 4/11 are gluten-free, 7 rice dishes, which are all gluten-free, and 5 naan breads, of which 40% are gluten-free. This meal deal is on the menu. Choose 1 main dish, 1 rice dish, and 1 naan bread. How many of the possible meal deals are totally gluten-free? Okay, so we know 4/11 of the 22 main dishes are gluten-free. So we can calculate of the mains how many there are which are gluten-free by doing 4/11 of 22, which is 8. 8 mains are gluten-free. 7 of the rice dishes are gluten-free. Okay, and now we just have to do the same thing for naan breads. So 40% of the naan breads are gluten-free. So that's 0.4 times 5, which is 2 naan breads. Okay, so the meal deal consists of taking 1 main dish, 1 rice dish, and 1 naan bread. Okay, so we just have to do 8 times 7 times 2. So 112. Okay, question 17. The cumulative frequency graph shows information about the masses of 200 apples. Okay, we have the masses. Estimate the median mass. Okay, this is pretty simple again. So if you're not familiar with the term median, it means the middle value. Okay, median, middle. So if we have a cumulative frequency graph, we just have to use it to find the median, or rather the middle value. Okay, so we have 200 apples. Okay, so what's the best way to find the median? Okay, well, you might be thinking, oh, we can just read off the graph at halfway, which technically is the method. So now we're going to show you the best way to do question 17. Okay, so let me just make sure I zoom out so I can see all the values. Okay, so if I read off at 100, it is somewhere between these two values. So if I read off, it's about 82.5 grams. Okay, so all you have to do is see where 100 was and read off the mass. Okay, 17b. Apples with mass 90 grams or less cost 32p each, and apples with mass more than 90 grams cost 39p each. Estimate the total cost of 200 apples. Okay, so all we have to do now is use the cumulative frequency graph to work out how many apples are of each category. So this is where 90 grams is. Okay, and I'm going to try and draw this line up to the frequency graph. Okay, now what we can do is see what value this is. Okay, so we know that 5 squares represents an increase in 20. So each square represents an increase in 4. Okay, so this must be 156 because there's 4 squares and each one has a value of 4. So we can do 156 times 0.32. Okay, for the price of apples with a mass of 90 grams or less. And then we can do the same thing for the apples which cost more than, sorry, which weigh more than 90 grams. So you know this is 49 pounds 92 pence. And there's 200 apples left. Sorry, there's 200 apples. So 200 minus 156 is 44. And we can do 44 times 0.39 for the apples that cost, sorry, that weigh more than 90 grams. And those cost a total of 17 pounds and 76 pence. So if we sum these two numbers, we get 67 pounds and 8 pence. Okay, and that is our answer. So all we've done is we've drawn a line from 90 grams and divided the apples into two categories. Then we saw that this point is 156. So that's how many are under 90 grams. And then we multiplied it by 0.32 because for 32p each. And then we didn't have to figure out what the number of apples above 90 grams is using a tedious method, because all we have to do is 200 minus 156, which is 44. And then 44 multiplied by 0.39 for the cost of apples above 90 grams. And then we sum those two prices up for the total price. Okay. Question 18. This shape is made from two right-angled triangles and a rectangle. Work out the size of angle X. Okay. So what we can do now is straight away, first thing we can do is we know that these two lines are the same. So I'm going to call this height. So we know that this is the height. So if we know what the height is by using this left triangle, then we can just use SOHCAHTOA again on the right triangle. Okay, so what I'm going to do straight away is I've been given the opposite side and the adjacent side. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the trig identity from this question, right, SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so for the angle 62, we've been given the opposite side and the adjacent side. So we're going to do tan. Okay, so tan of 62 is opposite of adjacent, so it's h over 5. So we know our height is 5 tan 62. Now, because I have a trig value or a trig function inside my answer for the length of the height, okay, I'm just going to keep it as 5 tan 62. Okay, because it's just easier to do it. Because we're going to be dealing with lots of decimals. So if I know h is 5 tan 62, then I can again use SOHCAHTOA. So in this case, for angle X, the h, okay, the h is opposite it, and 12 is the hypotenuse. Okay, so opposite and hypotenuse. So we're going to use sine. So sine of X, okay, is equal to opposite of a hypotenuse. So it's 5 tan 62 over 12. So X is equal to sine inverse of 5 tan 62 over 12. Okay. And that is, if we use a calculator, should be equal to, let's check, 5 times 62 over 12 is 0.783. So if we do the sine inverse of that, we get an angle of 51.6 degrees, rounded to one decimal place, okay, to 1 dp. Okay, question 19. A and B are positive values. Show that 7a plus 2b minus 3a over 8a plus 6b plus 2a minus b always simplifies to the same value. Okay, well, what does the top simplify to? Well, the top simplifies to, well, 7a minus 3a is 4a, and we have 2b. So 4a plus 2b is our numerator, and our denominator becomes, well, we have 8a plus 2a, so 10a, and we have a 6b minus b, so we have 5b. Okay, so now we can simplify this. So if we take out 2 at the top, we have 2a plus b, and again, we can take out a 5 for the denominator, and we have 2a plus b. Okay, so the 2a plus b at the top and bottom cancel out. So we just get 2/5 every time. Okay, and that's how you show it. Okay, question 20. AB, BC, CD, and DE are 4 of the sides of a regular decagon. Work out the size of angle W. Okay, so a decagon just means 10-sided. Okay, so now we can use n minus 2 times 180 to figure out what the angles are. So 10 minus 2 times 180 is 1,440. Okay, so now we can do that over 10 because it's 10 sides. So each is 144 degrees. So now what we can do is, if we know that the angle is 144, we can do 144 minus 90 to give us the value of W. So we know that W now is 54 degrees. Okay, next question, 21a. Circle the point that is on the graph y equals 1 over x. Okay, so is minus 1, 1 on this graph? Well, 1 over minus 1 is minus 1, so it's not this one. 1 over 0.3 is 10 over 3, so it's not this one. 1 over 0.8 is 1.25, so it's not. So it must be this one. 21b, Leo wants to draw the graph of y equals 2 to the power of x for values of x from 0 to 4. Here is the graph. Make one criticism of his graph. Well, at x equals 4, the value is 16, but he's done 15. So we can say at x equals 4, the value should be 16, not 15. Okay. And that's the criticism. Question 22. One of these graphs is the graph of y equals 1 plus sine x. Okay. So we know that it can't be c, because we know that the maximum value of sine is 1. So if you add 1 to it, the maximum would have to be 2. Okay, so it's between A, B, and C. Sorry, A, B, and D. Okay, well, what do we know about the value of sine 90? Well, we know it's 1. Okay, so we know that sine 90 is 1. So for y equals 1 plus sine x, 1 plus sine 90 must be equal to 2. Okay, so now we can also cross out D. Okay, so now let's take, for example, we take the value of 180. Well, sine 180 is 0. Okay, so we know that sine of 180 is 0. Let me write that down. So sine 180 equals 0. So 1 plus sine 180 is equal to 1. Okay, so which of A and B has 180 going through 1? Well, it's A. Okay, so A is the correct one. So it can't be B, C, or D. Okay, and this is the method you can use if you can't see that it's A straight away. Okay, question 23. Right angle triangle ABC is the cross section of a prism. AB is 5 centimeters, BC is 12 centimeters, M is the midpoint of CF, and AM is 16 centimeters. Okay, work out the volume of the prism. Okay, so what I'm going to do straight away, or the first thing I'm going to do, is work out AC. So AC is the square root of 5 squared plus 12 squared, which is 13. And then I'm going to work out what is CM. So CM is the square root of 16 squared minus 13 squared, which is square root of 87. Now the volume is 2 times a half times 5 times 12 times root 87. Okay. So it's the half times 2 just cancels out. Okay, it just becomes 1. So now we have just got 60 root 87. Okay, so the volume is 60 root 87, which is 559.6. Okay, so our answer is 559.6 centimeter cubed. Okay, question 24. Quadrilateral ABCD is shown. Okay, yeah, it's shown. Work out the coordinates of C. Okay, only the coordinates of C when ABCD is rotated 90 degrees clockwise about O. Okay, so this is O, and we want to know what happens to point C after it's rotated 90 degrees clockwise about O, and then translated by is minus 6, 2. Okay, so first let's do what happens when it's rotated. Okay, so point C is easy to figure out what happens between the translations. Okay, but we need to first do rotation. So if I do the rotation, it should be simple to do. Okay, so this is what our rotated value is going to look like for the quadrilateral. Okay, so this is our point C. And if we translate it now by minus 6, 2, let's see what happens. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and by 2, 1, 2. Or maybe I've done something wrong. Yeah, sorry. Let's just focus on C. I've been focusing on the wrong point. So this is C, D, A, and B. So what happens to C? Well, minus 6 is moving 6 to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 2 up because the number below minus 6 is 2. And 2 is movement in the y-axis. So I'm moving 2 up. So 1, 2. So this is our new coordinate of C. So I'm just going to draw our quadrilateral again. So this is now our new quadrilateral. Okay, so I'm going to call this C dash, C double dash actually. I'm going to call this C dash. So it's at minus 5, minus 2. Okay. Triangle PQR is shown. When PQR is reflected in a line, P and R are invariant points. Circle the equation of the line. So the only time where it could be invariant is where you just reflected it y equals minus x. Okay. Question 25, factorize 3x squared plus 11x minus 20. Okay, so this is the question of factorizing. So in this case, you can actually just use a calculator because it just factorizes it for you. So it will be 3x plus 4, sorry, 3x minus 4. And we'll have x plus 5. And that's your factorization. Yeah, so 3x minus 4 and x plus 5. And we don't actually have to find or write down the values of x. We just factorized it. Okay, question 26. Edith's van can safely carry a maximum load of 920 kilograms. She wants to use a van to carry 30 sacks of potatoes, each of mass 25 kilograms to the nearest kilogram, 20 sacks of carrots, each in mass 7.5 kilograms to one decimal place. Can she definitely use her van in one journey? Or can she use a van safely in one journey? Okay, so when we've been given a question like this, we always have to consider the bounds, the upper and lower bound for each value, or rather, in this case, each type of vegetable. Okay, so let's say that we have, our value of 25 and 7.5. We want to see what happens if we take the upper limit. Okay, so let's say we take the maximum. So we take the upper bound of the weight of a sack of carrots and a sack of potatoes. So if we take the upper bound of potatoes, that will be equal to 25.5. Okay. And if you take the upper bound of carrots, okay, if you take this value, we will get 7.55. And now we're going to see what happens if we calculate the total weight. So now if we do 30 multiplied by 25.5 plus 20 multiplied by 7.55, then we want to see what we get. Okay, so 30 multiplied by 25.5 gives us a value of 765 plus 20 times 7.55, which is 151. Okay, so in total it's 916 kg, which is less than 920 kg. So yes, she can. Okay, so we don't have to work or use any of the lower bounds, because all we have to do is figure out, let's assume that all of them are at the upper bound. All 30 sacks of potatoes are 25.5 kilos, and all 20 sacks of carrots are 7.55 kilograms. Okay, then we calculated the actual weight of them in total. And then we want to see if that was greater than 920 or not. And if it was less than, she could carry it safely. Okay. Question 27. There are 20 discs in a bag. 2 of the discs are taken at random from the bag. Work out the probability that the first disc has a smaller number than the second disc. Okay. So to avoid making any mistakes in this question, I'm going to do this in a very systematic method. Okay. So supposing we take, I'm going to write first and second, or I'm just going to write 1 and 2. First and second. So if a first number is 11, then for a first number to be smaller than the second number, we know that 11 is less than all the other numbers. 11 is less than 22, 33, and 44. So if we do that for the others, we know that 22 is less than 33 and 44. And we know that 33 is only less than 44. So now we just have to calculate all these individual probabilities. Okay. So what's the probability of getting an 11 and then a 22? Well, the probability of getting 11 is 4 out of 20. Okay. And then getting a 22 off that. Okay. And now there are not 20 discs in a bag, there are 19. Okay, there's 19 because we already took 1 out. And how many discs have the number 22? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so 6 over 19. So the probability is 24 over 380. Okay, so now what's the probability of getting 11 and a 33? Well, the probability of getting 11 is still 4 out of 20. And the probability of getting 33 is now 7 over 19, which is 28 over 380. Getting 11 and then a 44 is 4 over 20 multiplied by 3 over 19, okay, which is 12 over 380. Okay, so now we've calculated the probabilities of all of these events. Okay, so let's put a tick next to it. Now we have to do the same thing for 22. So the probability of getting a 22 and a 33. Okay, so how many 22s are there? Well, there's 6. Okay, so 6 out of 20. And then the number of discs which have 33, we calculated was 7. So 7 over 19. Okay, so this is 42 over 380. And now we're going to do the same thing for 22 and 44, which is 6 over 20 multiplied by 3 over 19, which is 18 over 380. Now we just need to do the probability of getting a 33 and then a 44. Okay, and which is 7 over 20 multiplied by 3 over 19, which is 21 over 380. Now, all we're going to do is sum all these probabilities, okay? So we have 24, okay, plus 28, plus 12, plus 42, plus 18, plus 21 over 380. Okay, so use a calculator to do this. So 24 plus 28 plus 12 plus 42 plus 18 plus 21, which is 145 over 380. Okay, which is 29 over 76, approximately 38.1%. Okay, so our answer is over here, and it is 29 over 76. Okay, again, there are probably 2 or 3 other ways you could have gone about doing this, but I wanted to show you the step-by-step, easy, no mistake method, so you can know for sure that you'll get the right answer. Okay. Question 28, a horse runs in a field. The speed time graph represents the first 12 seconds of the run. After how many seconds had the horse run a distance of 75 meters? Okay, well, that's simple. So we can see that in the first 4 seconds, he runs a distance of 20 meters. Okay, because half times 4 times 10 is 20. And now what I'm going to do is attempt this question in a slightly different way. So what I'm going to say is, well, he needs to run 75 meters. So 75 minus 20 is 55. And the area of this shape, because it's a rectangle, is just seconds multiplied by 10. Okay, so 10 times S is 5.55. So seconds is 5.5. So the total time is 4 plus 5.5. So he takes 9.5 seconds to run a distance of 75 meters. Okay, question 29. Solve 5 over 4x plus 1 equals 2x over x squared plus 3. Give your solutions to 3 significant figures. You must show all your working. Now, although this is a question which you could do simply on a calculator, what we're gonna do instead, okay, what we're gonna do instead is use the quadratic formula and show our working. So I'm gonna multiply the top of this left-hand side by x squared plus 3. So I'm gonna get 5x squared plus 15 on the left-hand side, and I'm gonna multiply 2x by 4x plus 1. Okay, so if I multiply 2x by 4x, I would get 8x squared. Okay, and if I multiply 2x by just 1, we just get 2x. Okay, now I'm going to bring everything to one side. So I'm going to bring the 5x squared plus 15 to the right-hand side. So I get 3x squared plus 2x minus 15. Now I'm going to use minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Okay, so I'm going to use minus 2 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times 3 times minus 15 over 6. Okay, and let me write that more clearly. So actually, let me just make everything more clear. So we have 3x squared plus 2x minus 15 equals 0. So minus b is minus 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared, which is b squared, minus 4 times 3 times minus 15, all over 2a, where a is 3, so over 6. So I'm going to get minus 1 plus or minus the square root of, well, you would initially think that you're going to get an error because you're going to get a big number inside it or a negative number. But you have minus 4 times 3 times minus 15. So you have double negatives, okay? So what's going to be inside the brackets, or rather under this, inside the square root, okay, is simply going to be 4 minus, okay, 4 minus, well, 12 times 15. Okay, so 4 minus 180, because 12 times 15 is 180. So we'll have the square root of 176 over 3, because I'm just divided everything by 2. Okay, and the square root of 176, okay, is 4 root 11. So we will get minus 1 plus or minus 4 root 11 over 3. So what happens when you do this? So minus 1 plus the square root of 4 root 11 over 3 is our one answer. Okay. So if we put that into our function calculator, you will get an answer, which we're going to write down. Okay, so sorry, not 4 root 11. What am I saying? Yeah, so going back to the simplification, we have minus 2 plus or minus the square root of 176 over 6. Okay, so now if I simplify this, then I can get an answer. So now I'm going to do it. Okay. So if I put this into my calculator, then we're going to just use this to do it. Okay. So if I do minus 2 plus or minus the square root of 176 over 6, those are solution sets. Okay. So we're going to just see what happens. What's inside the square root is the key thing. So 2 squared minus 4 times 3 multiplied by minus 15. Okay. So I've seen my mistake. So this should be minus 2 plus or minus. And because this is a double negative, this is a positive. So instead of getting 176, I should have written the square root of 184 and then done over root 6, sorry, over 6. So it's minus 1 plus or minus the square root, okay, the square root of 2 root 46 over 6. Sorry, over 6. So minus 1 plus or minus root 46 over 3. Okay, so minus 1 plus the square root of 46 over 3. So 1.9 and the other answer is the bigger number. So I should get an answer of minus 1 minus the other number. So I should get an answer of 1.93 and an answer of minus 2.59. Okay, and that's the end of the paper. Okay, so let's just go over everything fairly quickly and see if you've done everything. Okay. I just want to see if there's anything I want to point out that could make you confused that I should just clear up, but I can't catch anything straight away. But obviously, if you see this video and you want to comment something which is still unclear, then obviously feel free to do that, and I will address it in the following video. Okay. Yeah, no, there's nothing I can see immediately which I want to change. So yeah. That's the end, and I will try and upload edX or paper 3 higher tier soon. And yeah,